boys and girls, dying times here. That's right, we're talking about Smile on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from a nondescript city that could just be anywhere, frankly. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the disturbing nonsense that is Smile in the hopes that an infected individual's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes that we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to bring a very special present to my son's birthday. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
You can't see me, but I've got this really weird smile on my face.
It's a lot harder to do a podcast without your lips being able to touch.
I got that kind of combination weird smile and then the Kubrick stare. It's a really, really horrifying combination.
It really is. So Gina, every once in a while we like to do the new hip movie that the kids love to see. And with the current turnarounds and the way that studios are releasing movies these days, because I don't get to see movies in movie theaters anymore. I have a puppy and I have a child and I have work. And between those three things, it just does not allow me to go out. But I was very happy to see that Smile landed on digital. We had a giveaway last week for digital copies of Smile. So I'm hoping that some lucky Kill by Kill listeners tuned in and requested those. It's also on Paramount Plus. Did you see Smile on streaming or did you catch it in the theater?
I tried to see it in the theater and as you say, life got in the way and I was not able to. So I watched it yesterday on Paramount Plus for the first time.
Finally, that Paramount Plus subscription is paying off. After more than a year of trying to do an episode by episode recounting of The Stand and giving up 2 episodes in because it literally tried to kill you.
Exactly. It just sucked the little live out of my body. Through my kidneys, apparently.
Yeah, apparently The Stand tried to kill you. And so we were like, you know what, we can't continue with this. And also, we did not want to continue with this. I don't think we've pulled the plug harder than we ever. I mean, if you had not, in fact, been almost killed by The Stand, I also think we would have given up on doing it.
I don't know. Listeners, if any of you, and I'm 100% sincere about this, contact us on social media, hit me up on Facebook or you want to mention in the group. If you watch this series all the way through to the end, please let us know. Because I know no one that watched the whole thing, not a single person, and we know some dedicated Stand fans. Bo and Megan. The reason why we did it with them is because they are huge Stand fans. I don't think they finished watching it. I don't know that anybody did, but if you have. And it's not even to rag on you or anything. I want to know how it turned out. If it got any better. What you liked about it, etc. Please, I honestly want to know.
Yes, I would too. I'd love to find out how it ends so that I don't have to watch it myself. And so far, I've been very dedicated to not watching it myself. But let us turn now from something we truly did not like to something I assume that we both did like, which is Smile. Why don't we have a quick, as is our wont to do with episodes of more recent films, have a quick non-spoiler discussion just to give people our impressions, let them know whether or not we liked the motion picture, and then we can get into more detail after that for those who have not had the opportunity to watch it yet. So Gina, what is your non-spoiler review of Smile?
It's really unsettling.
Mhm.
I would say that, I have seen this a few places, but it cannot be stated up that this movie kind of maybe needs a content warning,
Mm.
particularly for people who struggle with mental illness and self-injury and suicide, because it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I don't know that I found it, scary, but it was disturbing. And
Yes.
for some reason, particularly, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it reminded me in some ways of Saint Maud. And I don't know,
Mm.
but I mean, without the religion, obviously without the religious aspects of it, but you
Right.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we could, and we have had the conversation about people complaining, oh, all horrors about trauma. And yeah, this one is exactly about trauma. I mean, it doesn't make any,
Yes. Yeah.
it's not a metaphor or anything like that. It's literally about how, trauma spreads from person to person. Only here, it's just literally like almost like contagious.
Yeah. I think the genius of this is that it uses the trauma metaphor not as a metaphor, but actually centers it into the conversation, which I think is different than being subtly in the background of something. It puts it to the forefront, but it's not alone there. And I think that is the other thing. It is incredibly familiar in many, many respects. It is
Yeah,
going to remind you of a lot of other movies. And this is that successful remix of other ideas into something original that I always enjoy seeing because I can point to how it is very obviously America's first real J horror. It is absolutely in the vein of The Ring and The Grudge and One Missed Call and Pulse. It is all those things, but swapping out the paranoia of technology for our very open discussion of mental health and how that feels from the inside is a very interesting remix of that idea. It also is stealing liberally from movies like It Follows.
oh, for sure.
And
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, call it homage, call it lifting, whatever you want. It's very reminiscent in a lot of ways of
yeah,
that.
I can't remember what borrows but genius steals. And I think it's taking that visual language and telling its own story with it. The other thing it definitely reminded me of, which is akin to that to a lesser degree, is The Night House, which is a fan fucking tastic motion picture. But again, something that might want to come with the content warning in terms of mental health, because that is also something that is forefronting that concept and putting it into the active discussion of the motion picture. I like The Night House a whole lot better. That being said, this is the popcorn horror version of that. And I would imagine that this was a lot of fun to see with other people in a movie
Well,
picture house.
it's got a few. It's got some jump scares, and I'm kind of worn out of the jump scares at this point. I'm actually starting to anticipate them, which
Mhm.
is probably suggests that they don't work on me the way they're supposed to. Like I can tell at
Right.
this point, okay, she's gonna turn, someone's gonna be standing right there. Or,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, and I don't mind them. I'm not anti jump scare, but I felt,
Mhm.
more the I connected more with the kind of creeping dread in this
Yeah.
than the jump scares. I will say that for all of the influences, homages, if people who don't like this would call them ripoffs. I am surprised and impressed that this is a debut feature for the director, because
Right. Yeah.
he feels, unfortunately, it's 10:30 in the morning here. I've been up since 5 a.m. I don't have the director's name at the top of my head. But he feels very assured that of the movie he's making.
Yeah, it's Parker Finn is the gentleman's name.
Yeah, apparently this was based
and-
on a short film that was expanded to a it's like maybe about an hour and 50-minute long feature, and it doesn't feel like, you know, stretched or padded or anything like that. It's, you know, he had a seed of a good idea and grew the seed, and that's, you know, that was the result of this. And I think it, you know, 90% of it works very well.
It's insanely confident. He does that thing that I very much love, and we discussed it in Barbarian as well. There's an intentionality to where the camera is being placed. This is what you need to look at and why you need to look at it. And what also sets this apart, and it has to be said, and we'll get into more detail about this, but the lead performance by Sosie Bacon is so gripping, is so committed. I can't imagine doing this for months, but she is literally on the edge the entire time.
Yeah, it looks exhausting. Now, one little funny thing I noticed is Sosie Bacon is, of course, the daughter of Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick. And it's much like Maya Hawke of Stranger Things, like and maybe I noticed this with my own child, and you might notice it with Ollie, that, you know, at certain angles and lights she looks exactly like the one parent, and then she'll turn her face and it looks like the other parent. And I mostly get a lot of Kevin in her, but maybe it's because I was thinking of like Stir of Echoes. He's done more horror than Kira Sedgwick has. So, you know, I'd see more of him, but it's just kind of funny how that sort of like, you know, I mean, obviously that's how genetics work, but, you know, some kids heavily favor one parent more than the other. She's kind of, you know, perfectly looks like both of them depending on the light or the angle. It was just interesting to notice.
Yeah, she definitely has Kevin's face shape, especially around the jaw, and then she has Kira Sedgwick's eyes. It's wild. Once you know it, you can't stop seeing it. But I'd seen her in Mayor of Easttown, and I'd liked everything about Mayor of Easttown. But when she, for the first half an hour, I completely forgot that I had ever seen her before. It's a very gripping performance. And it just really, I have to praise her ability to keep this up, because the film is so demanding of her emotionally. And if you don't buy her, you wouldn't buy anything. There's no amount of camera tricks in the world that is going to sell you on this concept if you don't believe she is going through it. And so, akin to The Night House, it's really anchored on an incredibly solid performance. And, you know, up until, I don't know, it's just a very heavily acted piece, because he is not trying to jump scare you. He's not trying to like jump. It's trying to pace it out and get you off guard. So I think before we go any further, I think we could just have to go into spoiler territory. So would you recommend that our audience check out Smile if they're so want?
I would say that if you found like the Babadook a little too intense, this is probably on a par with that. And I would say that I was going to bring up S.E. Davis in comparison to Sosie Bacon, in which, you know, you were watching somebody, you know, not just fall apart mentally, but aware and very scared that they're falling apart. And sometimes that part is harder to deal with than the actual, you know, mental illness part. Is that, you know, you are aware that something is happening to you that should not be happening to you. So I think that you know, if the Babadook was a little too much, then I would take a pass on this. But other than that, I think it's a very well done, very effective movie.
I would agree. I think it's a lot of fun in terms of the roller coaster ride, but it is very rare to have a popcorn horror movie that is more about vibes. And this is really a getting under your skin and making you feel uncomfortable. That is generally not something that makes $200 million at the domestic box office.
No, it's a little bit of a miracle that it was originally going to go right to streaming, and
Yes.
somebody said, no, let's put it in the theater, give it a try, and
let's put this out in theaters. And I mean, whoever thought of that?
I mean, there were no name actors. I mean, horror fans know who Kyle Gallner is, but I mean, he's still not a huge name in horror. You know, there was no big star anchoring it. It's an original property. It's pretty much like Barbarian in that, who would have thought that this would have, would land with audiences so well.
I think it's a really fun development that studios are understanding that as a communal experience, horror is where it's at. Like, spectacle is great, but you have to spend so much money for spectacle. And this is a movie that really benefits of not having super widely known ubiquitous stars. I'm sure there are plenty of movie star caliber names that could have handled this role, but I think it would have put you at distance of the character. And because Sosie Bacon is not as well known, she just is allowed to inhabit this role, and you don't have a blockade of where do I know her from? All the mental gymnastics you have to get past in order to feel for her. It's just gone. You're just into the movie. I also recommend it, but it does come with that content warning of this does forefront mental health as an issue. And so if it makes you feel uncomfortable, pull that parachute. You do not have to. Your stability is much more important than your cultural conversation of being able to see smile. That being said, read the Wikipedia description. The plot's already up. It won't be ruined for you if you know what's going to happen going in. Yes, but you've seen other movies like this.
Yeah,
is the other thing. And let's get into that detail. So those who have not seen it yet and want to, pause it here and come back to us later, re-download it. Download it 10 times. I don't care. It's fine with me. But those who have seen the film and let's continue on and get into this. As I said, this is America's first original J-horror. The entire time I'm like, holy shit, someone figured out the math of The Ring and The Grudge and all that stuff and just swapped mental health and the fear of being trapped in a situation that is crazy. And when you tell it to other people, they're going to think you're crazy.
Well, it also helps.
And that's the horror.
Yeah, and making things worse is she has the least supportive family that I've seen in a movie like this in a long time. It actually made me honestly angry, but it was supposed to. And at one point I'm like, one of these people had better end up getting killed, and they don't. No. And it really pissed me off. It's like, come on, man. Give the audience some satisfaction, because her boyfriend's an asshole about it. Her sister's an asshole about it. Just everybody's just exasperated and immediately shutting her down. And I can't deal with this. And Patrick, you love Becky. You guys have been together a very long time. If she came to you and said, I've been seeing things. I think something is, chasing after me. I feel like I'm being haunted. You would be concerned, maybe even frightened, but I would assume, because you're a human being with feelings like you love her, that your response would be, well, let's figure this out. Let's see how we can get you some help.
Yeah.
You wouldn't shut her down with, well, I can't deal with this. I'm tired of you, not being able to get over things and blah, blah, flabberty flu. And yet that is how people often deal
Yeah.
with a loved one's mental health issues. And it's so sad. And it's so despairing that in 2022, a lot of us can't even offer up even a crumb of patience and compassion for someone who is struggling to hold themselves together. It's really sad.
And I feel like this movie really goes out of its way to make mental health a reality before it goes into the supernatural elements. When Rose first meets with this one recurring patient to the center which she works at, you can see her approach this person differently than everyone else. Everyone else is confrontational, trying to make direct eye contact, focusing on them. And in many respects, you would think that would be the right approach. But she knows that the less threatening way to have a conversation with this person who is having a very manic episode is to sit to his side, to allow him full view in front of him, that she's with him, not, interviewing him or, that he's under some sort of, like he's under, police interview somehow. And it shows you that she knows how to help people. And as a result, she knows when she says these things that she's experiencing out loud to people that she's going to sound fucking bug nuts. And it's part of the terror of this is that there's nothing that she can do to convince people the craziest thing you've ever heard of is actually happening to her.
Yeah, like even her boss, who is a therapist at the hospital, he's just kind of like, what are you talking about? It's like, how do you act like you've never heard this before?
Right.
How do you the answer to your problems is take some time off. Not like, well, maybe we should, get you some help to see why you feel that way. It's like, yeah, no, this makes you a danger to the patient. So you need to, because she misread a situation with a patient, which probably happens a lot. Yes, in a psychiatric hospital, that you mistake their actions for. Now, obviously, we know that she's, this is a vision she's having. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the doctor doesn't know that.
Right.
But he's just like, yeah, no, we can't have you around patients. And, that's all she has. It's like to tell somebody that, just like, I don't have time to listen to this. Just take a week off because, you need to get your shit together before you can come back and keep working here. And just the only person that helps her is Kyle Gallner, who is her ex-boyfriend.
Right. Yeah. Because he's listening. It's weird how often we come back to this concept as of late, where the terror within a situation is exasperated by the fact that the characters around our main person who's experiencing whatever this is, that this is a mask for people who hear the words that come out of your mouth, but don't really want to get involved. And for me, the metatextual idea behind Smile is that that is all they want her to do. Her boyfriend would like her to be a doctor he can show up to parties with and say, this is my doctor wife. He wants to present a front. His sister, or her sister rather, my apologies, and brother-in-law would simply like to project this area of perfection. They just would like everyone to believe they're just rich and fanciful and have this lovely child and nothing in the world is wrong. And her boss would like just professionalism. And if you cannot be professional to these standards, then I won't really deal with the problem at hand. I will, again, send you home. And they would all just like her to smile. And that is the demon behind this, is the concept of, I don't want to deal with your problems. You center yourself in someone else's issues. And that idea is made into a horror movie. And for that alone, this gets a gold fucking star.
Yeah, and probably the most unsettling scene for me, and I'm not gonna get too deep here, but when she is at her nephew's birthday party, things are already starting to go to hell for her at that point. She's already been confronted with this patient who commits suicide in front of her, which kind of gets the ball rolling, for everything that happens. And she's kind of checked out of this party, and you know what? I've been there. I've been in happy situations and just kind of, just been a body filling a space, but not really I could open my eyes and be sitting in the middle of a train station and would not know any different, just and she's just kind of spacing out, and the voices, everybody saying happy birthday, it's all getting distorted. And it's like, okay, somebody behind the making of this movie gets this. And understands what this is like. And I, as someone who has very long struggled with mental health issues, I appreciate that. Is it a little lurid, to show all these crime scene photos, these horrific ways people are committing suicide? Yeah, but it's a horror movie. I accept that. There has to be a little luridness involved, but there is an empathy to the situation that I appreciate. Another thing I really liked was every time it comes to light very quickly that she has struggled with mental health in the past.
Right.
Perhaps not to the intensity that she is now, certainly not the intensity of presenting her nephew with a gift wrapped dead cat, which she doesn't even remember. Obviously she did kill the cat. She doesn't remember.
Yes.
But, because like I said, everybody is immediately like, oh God, here we go again. She, she can't hold herself together, but she will occasionally have these outbursts, in defense of herself, and for everybody just being, indifferent and irritated at her, and then she'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. And it's just, and again, that's like, that meme was the elderly man, grimacing and holding his chest. I was like, oh, it me. Yeah. Just oh God, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have, yelled at you for your failure to, be empathetic and patient with me,
Well, because she knows how it sounds on the other side. And all she wants, at this point, what she wants is just people to hear her and understand. I know this sounds fantastical, but there is a reality to this, whether or not you believe it or not. There's a reality. There's something going on here. And if you would only listen to me a little bit, you would begin to piece it together. And Kyle Gallner, who, God bless him, has had quite a year for an actor who once upon a time was trapped in the worst Nightmare on Elm Street film of all time and will ever be. I just don't think you could make a worse Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And he is really trying in there, and God bless him. He's found a second act, and he just really kind of shines here as someone who hears what she has to say. It sounds a little bit crazy, but he goes with her a little bit. And because of that, he's like, all right, there's something going on here. And I might not believe everything that's happening about what you say it is, but there's obviously some tangible element of this that I can get on board with. And I think he really kind of shines in those moments.
Yeah. And you know what? I said that earlier that it reminds me of Saint Maud, and it's mostly because of the closing shot, which is devastating.
Yeah.
You sure you all don't want to be spoiled on this? because I'm going to say the ending. She sets herself on fire. Yeah. But you don't really see it. You only see Kyle Gallner's reaction to it. And it is a tight close up of his face. And you could just see like just something, you could hear like the shattering glass, like sound effect of like, you know, like his eyes are just like, you know, like, I can't comprehend what I'm seeing here. And you're like, well, you know, it's going to keep moving. And like, and then you like see like her reflection in his eyes. And it's just like, yeah, like I said, I am shocked that this is a debut feature, because, you know, that takes some balls to end your movie like that and have it be terrifying and upsetting and you know, just kind of, you know, a scene, you know, you won't forget, rather than coming off as kind of, you know, cheesy.
Yeah. And going back to the J-horror thing, because I think this is important to kind of get across, because in many ways, the J-horror revolution was not just how do we find a different way to tell a horror story. It was a moment in time in which, you know, we had just been told the world might end because the computers don't have 4 digits to tell a year. They only have 2. And you're like, well, that seems simple. Shouldn't there be a fix for that? And it turned out there was a fix, and it took a whole shit ton of computer scientists and programmers to figure that out for every single fucking computer on Earth. And they actually did, which is why the world did not end, quote unquote, because of it. But that sort of trauma around that, and to use that word again, is so resident in those movies, that these convenient technologies access things we're not yet ready for, I think is somewhat turned on its head here, not just in the curse element, not just in the, you're going to see the end result of a lot of bad deaths result, but that mental health is something that is being forefronted in so many conversations. Spend just a couple hours on TikTok, and you will see how casual people are with discussing their mental health issues. And that idea of you being able to discuss it and yet still being judged for it, and that this conversation is in the world and we don't have a solution for it, that there are all these huge traumas that we deal with, whether it is personal, whether you were in a place that had a real shooting in it, or you have simply heard about it. Not to tell tales out of school, but there was a loud incident at my son's school. Now, there were no weapons involved. There was no threats involved. It was just one of those things where one particular child decided after an argument to go down the hallway and start slapping loudly on everyone's door and scream. This resulted in every single one of these kids having that triggering circumstance that they have been told is a possibility. Someone in your school has a weapon and they're out to get you. And that flashed through every single kid's head. I don't want my child to think about that. But guess what? He's thought about it. And when this happened, it was at the forefront of his mind. And these traumatic events are the sort of soup that this is making a meal out of. And it's doing that thing that so many of the horror movies we've talked about, whether serious or fun popcorn or goofy, they're all playing on the mirror of society and going, what is freaking people out right now? And how can I use that? And is this a little exploitative? Yes, but horror is an exploitative genre. And I think it's pretty wild that the runaway horror success of the year is playing on trauma at the forefront.
Yeah, and it's not, it's not a fun movie. it doesn't end well for anyone.
Yeah.
You feel that she's going to have this triumphant moment in which she, confronts the real heart of her own personal trauma. uh she doesn't.
Mhm.
It doesn't work, which, again, but I also think that is somewhat realistic. It's pragmatic in that if you have dealt with an incredibly traumatic situation, which, we are led to believe that it is the suicide of her mother. I mean, which technically it still is, but you
Mhm.
you learn later that she has let the mother die because she can't deal. The mother's overdosed, and she simply, as a child, does not call for help because
Yeah.
she
She's
can't.
probably seen it before.
Yeah,
That's the other thing.
yeah, she can't.
That
She's been she's pretty much been left to her own devices by the sister. We find that
Mhm.
out. And you if it's something like that, if it's a loved one getting murdered, if it's sexual assault, there's no such thing as conquering it or removing it from your life. There is simply acknowledging that it exists and doing the best you can to get a grip on it. There,
Mhm.
you can't simply eliminate it from your life. and
And
and and I think that this movie, sadly, she thought she had it. Nope, is so much worse than she thought.
yeah, that very much reminded me, and I've been struggling to come up with the 2006 spelunking horror movie,
The,
uh,
the Descent.
The Descent. It very much reminded me of the original cut of The Descent, um, which I think about The Descent a lot. That's another movie that just exploits a particular concept that the tight spaces thing I can't fucking do. And that movie, I have not revisited it, not because I didn't enjoy the living hell out of it, but I don't know that I can go through it again.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd watch this one again. Again, I liked it very much. I gave
Mhm.
it 4 stars on Letterboxd. I think it is a well-made movie,
Mhm.
but much like the Babadook, I felt myself empathizing with the protagonist a little too much.
Yeah.
And that could be exhausting for
Yes.
any kind of movie.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, if I see another drone shot upside down, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind.
Yeah, that's a little played out at this point.
Like, this is the death knell for this. Like, I'll grant you it's an interesting concept, and I liked it when I saw it 20 years ago, but it's got to stop. And this puts that to bed. We can all be done with that as something we need to see. It's so It Follows. It's so Saint Maud. It's so The Grudge. It's all these things in a bouillabaisse, and find something original out of it, which, that's pretty wild that you can be that referential and yet find a way to. And it's the sort of thing that April Wolf is always talking about. It's not what happens, it's how it happens. And so this is it's how it happens that makes that makes this film sort of take off. But oh my God, it is. If you've seen a movie, holy shit, you've seen this movie. It's pretty wild that it works as effectively as it does. And I think it just comes down to execution and the performances. And the other thing that absolutely is lifting is music. And that music is from the first season of White Lotus.
Okay, I haven't watched that, so
okay,
I'll take your word for it.
The first season of White Lotus, and this is not a plot spoiler or anything like that. It is simply to do with the music, because it takes place in Hawaii, and it's the most nightmarish version of the tiki room from Disneyland over and over again at the most inappropriate times. It sounds like a bird hollering in your ear constantly. And it's so unnerving and so disruptive. You can't, it's like, please, for the love of God, what is going to happen? What is going to happen? And most of it is just, we're going to make fun of rich people. But then, but you keep waiting for someone to pull out a knife and plunge it into somebody's eyeball. That's what it sounds like. And here it is doing that at very opportune times. It's just, and you're like, oh my God, please stop, please stop, please stop. It's intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
The motion picture.
Exactly. And also, like, going back to Barbarian, both movies end with the roll credits over very upbeat old songs, which I actually love. I mean, that's kind of also become a cliche in of itself for horror
Halloween
movies.
With Mr. Sandman.
But I actually kind of love that. I have a whole Spotify playlist of songs. Literally, the playlist is called "Songs That Should Be in the Soundtrack of Horror Movies" because it's either songs I'm surprised haven't been used in horror movies yet, or like just upbeat songs that would be funny to have at the end of a horror movie. Like, I always thought that it would be really great to have a movie about vampires in which the end credits rolled over the Archie Sugar Sugar. Right.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I love, again, it's a cliche in itself, but I get a kick out of it. It's just such a nice little Midsummer did it. It's just, it's sort of like a dash of cold water to the audience's face, I mean.
Yes. Well, I think it's projecting this everything's going to be all right vibe afterwards. Like, it's okay. This is all entertainment. we can understand this entertainment. It affects you.
Take a breath. It's okay.
Yeah. We're okay. Here's something familiar you can grasp onto as you crawl out of a movie theater. It's just weird that this was the popcorn moment of the year next to Top Gun Maverick. These could be more diametrically opposed motion pictures in terms of that.
Well, it's interesting to me because a lot of movies have struggled to find an audience this year, and a lot of movies that seem to be sure bets. And I don't want to get anything controversial, but a lot of people were willing to dismiss it as, well, people are reluctant to go back to the movies because of COVID. It's like, I don't think they are that much anymore. I mean, last couple of times I've been to the movies, those have been packed theaters, and I saw like Triangle of Sadness, which is not really. I mean, it's a funny movie, but it's not a popcorn movie. So it's like, okay, people are making an educated decision to not see certain movies, but to go, see other movies like Barbarian, like Smile, because I think that movies at this point have gotten so outrageously expensive, that horror movies are more of a known quantity. It's like there is a 75% chance I'm going to be entertained by this movie and it'll be worth my time and money. Whereas, let's say a movie like I don't know, Don't Worry, Darling. I'm pulling that out of the air because I just watched that last week. But that was another one that was expected to do very well. Because, in fact, it's so well that and Black Adam were like the only two theatrical releases that Warner Brothers have done this entire last quarter of the year. It did not do well. So it's like, but yet people, are at that point, at the same time that Don't Worry, Darling came out, Smile had been already out for about a month and was still doing very well.
Yeah. And Barbarian and Terrifier 2. And, it's very discounted, but
Terrifier 2, who could even explain that one? I mean, I don't that's just like, there are miracles, and then there's like, how did this happen? And I don't mean that in terms of quality of the movie. I haven't seen it yet, but just how many people even had heard of Terrifier before this?
I think it's one of those weird word of mouth things.
Yeah.
And I think people who were into it probably front loaded it, but I think it's delivering something that Barbarian isn't. And Barbarian is delivering something that Smile isn't. And Smile is delivering something that Halloween Ends isn't. It's
a
not
plot
only,
and engaging characters.
yeah.
I definitely cared more. I definitely cared more about Sosie Bacon than I did about Corey.
Oh, fucking Corey.
We shan't relitigate.
No,
Halloween Ends.
please go to Patreon, and I think all of our Halloween commentaries are worth listening to. It was quite a journey, and I'm glad we went on it, but that was a weird way to end things. But there's a film that is literally trying to do what Smile does, and it simply cannot land it. It is just a bridge too far, and I praise it for attempting to do something different, because you could have just delivered another Halloween and probably would have been better received.
Well, here's the problem. I said before that I don't want to say that it was specifically the screenwriter, but somebody involved in Smile gets this. It feels personal. Whereas, I as you say, I appreciate that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride try to approach the subject of trauma, because that's something a lot of slasher movies don't even bother getting near. But it feels distant and detached in a way that I don't get invested. I mean, yeah, fine. I felt for Jamie Lee Curtis because it's Jamie Lee Curtis, but because so little time, again, I'm relitigating Halloween Ends. I just said I wasn't going to do that, but they kind of just dropped this new character, into the audience's lap to say, okay, he's sad, care about him, And it's like, but why? Why should I, make me understand his problems, make me feel sad for him, and they don't. Whereas, Sosie Bacon's character, Rose, completely new to the audience, dropped in the audience's lap, but somehow the combination of how Sosie Bacon plays her and how the character is written, you kind of feel invested in her from the minute you meet her.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. So do we dare play Choose Your Own Deathventure, or is that just a little too morbid? Because you're doing it to yourself. And
I mean, to be fair, like most of the deaths are alluded to. I think there were only like 2 on-screen deaths, right?
Yes, there are only 2 on screen.
I don't like either.
We hear about and see a picture.
I don't like any of them. Well, I mean, I love that the cruel twist in it of this transferring this virus, if you want to call it, is not just that you have to kill yourself in front of another person or kill another person, as we find out. You have to do it as gruesome and violently as possible. So I guess they just, it's not enough that someone, hung themselves or something like that. It's like, you have to run your head into a bandsaw or something like that. So it's like
you have to be really inventive with it.
Yeah.
Like this demon must be running out of ideas at this point.
You have to launch yourself out of a cannon and through their front window.
Yeah.
So I don't like either of those.
Paramount's going to go back to the well on this. I hope this filmmaker and writer takes that executive producer credit and the money coming his way and runs.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that most of the suicides are more mentioned. Oh, I guess we count the guy in the video who stabbed himself with like garden shears or something like that.
Yes. Again, this movie is filmed in such a wild way where I'm squinting. And I have a 65-inch 4K HD television. I'm squinting. I have glasses on. I'm like, how is this happening?
I do like how that's shot. Like he he's in it's supposed to be like a gas station, and
Mhm.
he like walks up to a woman like pumping gas, and he like stabs himself, but like this like blood fountain sprays out of his chest, and she's just kind of like back and like, oh my.
Oh, well, it's a Tuesday.
I mean, I'd probably be doing like a Kevin McAllister. Ah! That's what he said for me. She's just sort of like cringing back.
The other cathartic thing about this is having watched people deny a deadly disease for months and months and months and months, even when people they know are dropping dead around them. It is more convenient for them to just move on with life. And here's a horror movie about here's this horrible thing that happens right in front of you, and deny it all you want to. It is real, and that it's the most popular horror movie of the year. I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what kind of media lands and doesn't land with people over the next couple of years. You got your comfort watches, like the Top Gun sequel. That's a comfort watch. Yeah. And then you've got stuff like this. It's like, okay, why are people all of a sudden embracing not just horror movies, like brutal horror movies? I mean, we really had a return to just on-screen, very violent horror. And it's like, okay, why this? Why now? That's not a complaint. That's an honest question. Does this have to do with things just being so relentlessly bleak on a worldwide scale?
I wholeheartly believe that there is an element to this that is akin to the Friday the 13th revolution, in the sense that you had a generation of people who had grown up and a whole swath of people who were slightly older than them had disappeared off the face of the planet, gone off to a foreign land, died horribly. It was shown on the news every single night because that's what was happening. And that they had to process that idea. And weirdly enough, the way it kind of came across for them that resonated with them was Friday the 13th style slashers. It is the, dare I say it, the mirror we hold up to society, and it allows us to access these ideas in a way that does not necessarily repulse you. It lures you in, and it's a communal experience, and all that jazz. Okay, go out and see Smile if you haven't already. It's well worth your time. If you have seen Smile, we're happy you came out the other side. Also see Nope if you haven't, because weirdly enough, it's dealing with the same shit, just on a grander scale. It's like, what if this idea, but instead of The Ring, it's Jaws? I really liked Nope.
Oh, I loved Nope. Nope's one of my favorite movies of the year.
I just don't think it's getting nearly the amount of play, because I think it's more specific in experience. I think you really have to, that one's a puzzler. And I think it's I have not gone back to watch Us. I just think about Us every other week.
I've watched it 2 more times since it's actually apparently it's a controversial statement to say that's actually my favorite of his movies.
I don't think it's controversial anymore. I really don't. Because it's slightly more universal. In the sense that that lingering idea that if anything good happens to you, it's because something bad happened to somebody else. That is a fucking frightening and terrifying idea that he made into a popcorn horror movie. Jesus Christ, I love this genre.
I know, right? Aren't you glad we decided to do this show?
I love that we get to talk about this shit. It's so fucking stupid. Thank you all for being a part of it. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. Should I even bother promoting my Twitter account? around anymore.
I don't know. Who knows if it'll still be here,
If it's,
or it could just linger on like a fucking zombie.
Yeah, I mean,
forever.
if you know,
like MySpace still exists.
Yeah, I mean, I may just abandon it eventually, but if you want to, go back and read some of my funnier tweets, it's Gina Does Things. And I have a Substack, which is really where it's at for me now, and that's GinaWatchesThings.substack.com.
We're on all the socials. We have a Facebook group that is very fun. If you still have a Facebook for, let's say, well, my parents want to see my child and pictures of them. That's the reason I have Facebook. But the second reason is because of our Facebook group, which has really started to blossom as of like, I think because people are trying to find a community that is not as chaotic as and devastatingly dramatic as Twitter is, like it as I do. We're on Instagram. I have a TikTok. I don't do shit with it. We also have a Substack. It's Kill by Kill at Substack.com. And we're going to be doing some stuff with it. And we're going to give it a whirl and try it out. See us on Patreon. We have a very funny episode on Starsky and Hutch. In a vampire.
It really is. It's really funny.
Genuinely funny. Talking about John fucking Saxon in a silk shirt. And then we are starting this month of November. We're going to go through all of the Friday the 13th movies again, but commentary style, as a way to, as a balm for our soul. And so that just about does it for myself and for Gina. The body count will continue. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.